In this video, we'll take a look at how you can export your data from Garmin BaseCamp and import it into Garmin Explore. Reason for that is since 2018, Garmin has stopped support of BaseCamp, and depending on your usage, you might want to start using Garmin Explore a little bit more. So, in order to export our collection or our library, we can just simply click on My Collection, and we can see the contents of the collection at the bottom left pane. And we don't necessarily need to select everything, but you can scroll through the data and pick through what you want if you want to select individual files. But we'll export waypoints, routes, and tracks. So simply click on File and then Export My Collection. Now I'm just going to export this on my desktop and show you how the process is. So let's click on Export. And from here, we'll see some limitations with the import in Garmin Explore, but I just wanted to show you what happens here. So first error is we're out of memory. So if you're using BaseCamp for a very long time, such as myself, then you might want to break things out into chunks. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go under the contents of my collection, and I'm basically going to do 3 exports. I'm going to export my waypoints, routes, and then tracks. So I'm going to skip bird's eye, geocoded images, and custom maps, but I'm just going to select my waypoints. Down at the very bottom left, you'll see I have 992 waypoints selected. And again, I'll click on File and Export Selected User Data. So again, we're just going to export this as a file on our desktop, and I'm going to do this 3 times. I'm going to name this, call this Tracks. And I'm going to export this as a GPX file, which is the format that we want to use. And then we'll export it. And then I'm just going to scroll down my list here. And I'm going to pull out the routes. I don't have a lot in my library, so I'm just going to bring them out anyway. And again, same thing, I can select, go up to File, Export Selected User Data. Same thing again, I'm just going to give this a name. I'm going to call this Routes. And I'll save that as a GPX file. And then last thing I'll want to do is the big one, which is the GPS tracks, which is probably quite a bit in your collection. So again, I'm just going to select them all, and you can see down at the bottom left there exactly how many tracks I'm going to export. Again, go up to File, Export Selected User Data. I'm going to call this Tracks and export it. And now that we have our 3 files exported, let's flip over to Garmin Explore at this point here. And last thing I want to say, again, we're not bringing in bird's eye. We're not exporting the geocoded images. So now we are ready to flip over to Garmin Explore. And if you're an inReach user, you'll see a whole bunch of options here because you'll have the inReach. Or if you are an outdoor user with GPSMAP, Montana, you might have a few less tabs here. But basically, we're going to get under our main user, and we'll get under our library. So it's kind of similar to BaseCamp, where you have a library where everything's dumped in, and then you'll have some collections or smart folders that you'll have information grouped. So what we're going to do here, we're going to create a new collection, and we're simply going to call this BaseCamp Archive. You can call this whatever you want. Now, down at the bottom here in the optional, I can add waypoints, tracks, and routes if I wanted to, but I didn't import anything yet, so I'm just going to skip this part. And then I have the option to actually sync this library to one of my outdoor devices. I'm going to skip this also because I found that when you're trying to sync large amounts of data like this, it really takes a long time to sync when you're syncing up your device. Of course, inReach, every time you do a change, they prompt you to sync your device. So now that we have our collection created, we're going to flip over it here, and then we're going to move over to the top right icon and press import. And then from here, we have the option to import our data as tracks or as routes. So tracks is basically the option that you want to take. And from here, we have a couple options. Basically, we're going to choose the first option, which is to associate everything that we're going to import into an existing collection. That's how we quickly categorize things. So we're just going to select our BaseCamp archive right here. And now we're going to click on Next. And from here, we can simply just do the steps. But you notice here, we can only bring in 1 file at a time. So I'm just going to bring in my files so you can see what's going on here. Notice here that we have a limit of 500 waypoints to import, so I'm going to have to go back to BaseCamp and do another chunk of these waypoints because I got way too many in this file. Let's take a look at our routes. Now it's going to import this as tracks. That was fine, so I'm going to click on Finish. And now it's going to refresh some of the data on the map and on my collection. You can see here on the left, things are starting to populate. And now what I'm going to do here is going to click on Import again, and I'm going to import as tracks. And I'm going to add things into my BaseCamp archive collection. And now I'm going to bring in my tracks. You can see this is a 56 meg file, and I just wanted to show you guys that if you wanted to do all of it, it's too much for the upload process, so we need again to go back into our BaseCamp and break out the tracks into smaller chunks that we can use. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to redo the export of my waypoints. So I brought in a bunch, 430, that's fine. There we go, my collection's being populated, and I'll get back to the tracks at one point. But anyway, from this point here, once you're get your content inside of Garmin Explore, you can go back, you can either sort by different types, tracks, routes, waypoints, or you can view everything on your map, or you want to manage your data. So in this case here, let's say I brought in these default Garmin waypoints. You can always click on the map or on the left side. You got your trash icon right here. You can delete the waypoints, or you can click, and we're going to delete this one here too. But you notice on the right of this, you have the pencil icon, and I'm just going to select another waypoint here and show you a couple things. So let's say you want to edit this waypoint, you can click on the pencil. Again, we can change the chords, the name, but notice here that it did not keep or import the point of interest or the waypoint icon from BaseCamp, which looks like it all gave it the blue flag, which really sucks, because if you flip over to BaseCamp, and you probably have your collection pretty well categorized, so I'm not going to go through 992 waypoints here to recategorize all the waypoints. So hopefully Garmin will fix this. This is as of January 2022, and this is it. This is how you export your data.